Hey, everybody, it's Reggie with Lawyer Interviews. And today we are talking with Anthony Sears, who is out of New York. Hi, Anthony.
Hey, Reggie, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Well, Anthony, you've got to tell us a little bit about your practice and let everyone know what exactly kind of law you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Reggie said, my name is Anthony Sears. I'm at Shulman and Hill. We're a plaintiff personal injury firm. We do all types of plaintiff personal injury from motor vehicle accidents, premises liability, slip and falls, trip and falls, construction accidents, all types of workers' compensation, and social security disability. So we really have the gamut here.
Wow, very cool. And so when you're dealing with, are you usually dealing with individuals? Are you, on the plaintiff side, for the most part, even with construction, or are you representing businesses too?
No, so we only represent the plaintiffs. We only represent the people that are injured.
Okay.
And nobody in the firm represents any of the industries or any of the defendants or anybody like that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then I understand you also are practicing kind of an interesting area as well that's kind of new in the whole legal gambit. And I'd love you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really funny because I have it on a lot of my advertisements and people are always asking about it. So I'm actually practicing revenge porn cases.
Mhm.
I have one or two in the office now. And it's basically, there was a new law signed pretty recently that grants individuals who had their photos sent out without their consent. It gives them a civil right of action.
Right.
It's a pretty new area. I've done a lot of research on it. There's really no precedent set. There's really not much precedent set at this point. And also one of the cases I have, my client just informed me recently that the police department that actually arrested the individual, this person was actually arrested for what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she said that the police officer told her this is one of the first times that we're ever arresting somebody for
Really?
this solicitation that occurred.
Right.
So, we're tackling it from the civil aspect. The criminal aspect is being handled as well. And it's really cool to kind of be like one of the pioneers for this area of law. So I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. Well, I think maybe viewers are going to be really interested in this too, because it is such a new area, and there's even documentaries about kind of like what led up to these laws passing criminally and now civilly. So like kind of explain like the situation, like someone sends a picture that's a nude or something, and then what happens? I mean, like what ends up happening that you would get involved?
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of the times we're seeing it where it's an individual who is sending pictures to a significant other at a certain time.
Mhm.
And then that significant other is distributing those pictures afterwards to all different places or all
Without
different.
consent by the person who sent it, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
correct. Also, we have a lot of phone calls where there are individuals who they're like, my video that I sent to my ex-boyfriend is on Pornhub right now, or some other type of pornographic website, right? So they're like, I never gave my consent for that. So it's really in the distribution, it's in the solicitation that
Right.
that's where the crime, that's where the tort occurs, right? So if without the consent, you need the consent of the individual. But also, I mean, it's good, right? Because you send something to somebody in confidence, and then
Right.
all of a sudden, they're sending it out to a third person, a fourth person, a fifth person, and then it, God forbid, or something, it goes viral. So I think it's a really good law that's come about, and it's really gonna it's gonna take some time, right? But we have to see like what's gonna happen in the courts with it. Hopefully, the courts are gonna take it as seriously as we are.
I hope so too. I think it's also an extension of like the public disclosure of private facts, but in a more specific area. Because I mean, it's even more severe in my opinion if you're talking about like someone's like nude body and stuff, or whatever, whether it's nude or not, like sending that out to someone intimately, and then it's like, oh, and now here I am, and all of these strangers can now see it, or even friends or people just who shouldn't see it. It's such a violating kind of crime and then tort. Like when you're dealing with your clients, like are they just distraught when they come to you, I'm sure, or like, I mean, how does that go for you?
Yeah, so from what I'm seeing, at first it's a lot of surprise. It's a lot of like, oh my God, I found out, or somebody sent me myself on some other website, or on, they texted me. And that's what we're seeing a lot. There's a lot of people, and like, congrats to the public for like helping each other out, which is great. But
Right.
like, for instance, yeah, so like a lot of our clients, they'll have, this girl on Instagram sent me this video of me, and saying like, hey, like, this is you. Whether or not how they found out that information is like a whole nother, we investigate all that kind of stuff. But that's what I'm seeing it a lot. So I think it's like good in that respect, is that like, individuals are sticking up for each other in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also it's a lot of sadness, right? Like, it's a lot of, you send something to somebody in confidence, right?
Mhm.
Or especially if you're with somebody for, say, you're dating somebody for 2 years, and then you send them, obviously, listen, we all send a lot of videos and pictures and all that kind of stuff, like whatever, right? If you're with somebody for 2-3 years, listen, it happens.
Right.
And then, you break up, and then, there's no expectation, or that person shouldn't be sending then your photos and videos that you sent to all these other people, right?
Right.
Or
Right.
there's some individuals that use it to elicit other people to come to them. Like,
Right.
I've seen that happening a lot. So it's a pretty spicy area. But it's an up and coming area. And as I said, I'm like excited to, be pioneering this with Shulman and Hill. And we're really looking to dig our claws into it and dig our feet into it and see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, and I know that they're like, I mean, I even have girlfriends or whatever who've had that situation happen, and just like thinking, oh, no recourse here, other than, contacting social media places and be like, hey, or, different websites and be like, hey, I didn't give my consent to be in this or whatever, or have it distributed. But like, once it hits the internet, it's out there. Like, it's out there, and it's so hard to claw back. So
100%. Yeah. And the thing, and it's, if you're sending it to a specific person, you're not expecting that it's going to go to all these different places, right? So
Right.
it's an invasion of your privacy, not legal invasion of your privacy, but it's an invasion of your own self. It's an invasion of, your body. And, from what I'm seeing, the courts have held certain, the law has held, certain body parts that are revealed. They do constitute, where you are able to bring a civil action. So,
Right.
if
Right.
you're sending feet pics or something, right, then you can't do that. You can't bring them before.
Right. Like, here's a foot pic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Look, you know what? Some people make a really good living selling feet pics.
Listen, 100%.
I haven't put it past
Yeah.
myself to get rid of my Lala. I'm like, do I have cute enough feet for this? Can I be a foot model?
Listen, Real Housewives, it was just on Real Housewives of Miami. That's the whole thing.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah, they were just talking
I
about
need
that.
to catch up.
Yeah. So
mean,
it's a thing. It's a thing for sure,
It is a thing.
Definitely, 100%. But, it's nice to see people working together to really start to catch these people. And as I said, hopefully hopefully it takes off, and hopefully there really is a recourse that, these victims are going to be able to obtain.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope people too think twice before hitting send to their friends, or, whether it is their friends or uploading it just because they're pissed at, their ex or whoever sent it. Like, think about that before you publish it, because not only could you end up with like severe criminal charges, but now you're going to civilly get sued. And so now your personal assets are up for, grabs. So
yeah, 1,000%. Literally exactly what you said is completely true. And hopefully it becomes a deterrent for people to do that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, another thing I'd like to talk to you about, Anthony, is return clients, because you have a portfolio of people who come to you for help, legal help as plaintiffs, and then they come back. So a lot of attorneys, in my experience, don't have sometimes that good rapport with clients where they want to come back. How have you gone about things differently where your clients are like, hey, here we are again, I'm coming back?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny because I think it's me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know to put a hard answer on it may be a little difficult, but like, for instance, I at first when remember that we were going to talk today, I was like, oh my God, I'm not in a suit. I don't have on a shirt. I don't have on a tie. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, this is me. This is even more perfect for this interview.
Right.
Than would be me like in a suit, in a tie up to my neck. Granted, yes, of course, we will wear full suits to court and everything like that, but I think it's my relatability. I think it's the fact that, while they're my clients, I'm fighting to obtain them justice. I'm fighting every single day to obtain them, the compensation for their pain and suffering. I think what they like is that they could feel that they could pick up the phone and talk to me. They like that they could pick up the phone and talk to me about how their day is, what they're doing. I have a lot of clients, I would say almost all of my clients that I have worked with who their case is now closed, they still call me till today. I just had one of my clients, Tracy, I won't give her last name, but she called me literally probably 3 days ago just to say, oh, I'm still working at Home Depot. This is what I'm doing. What's going on with your daughter? How's everything going on with her? And like, they're keeping me in the loop,
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it. I think it's, the days of, I try to strive for the days of, not speaking to your attorney for, say, 3 years and just speaking to a paralegal or something like that. Like, I try to make those days gone. I really try to be available for everybody. And even one of my other cases that recently settled, we obtained the full policy tender limits. And literally the first thing that the client said, literally the first thing out of her mouth was, it would take me 3 days to even get my lawyer on the phone. She said, and you literally answered me within 3 minutes every single time I reached out to you.
Right.
It could be daunting for me, right?
Right.
We can't lie about that.
Ask you, how does that work with like personal boundaries too? Like, do you set times when you'll take calls? No, or like, are you just kind of available whenever? I mean, how do you set those clients?
Yeah, so I found that, like, that's an interesting question. So I found that the best manageability comes with the form of communication. I think email and text message is a very, very easy way to respond no matter what.
Right.
So, if you text me or you email me, unfortunately, I'm, one of those people that, it says like your weekly screen time is literally like 100 something hours. I
don't need that negativity in my life.
Exactly.
I don't want to know. Don't tell me.
Literally, it's like it's down like 1% from last week, which means you're like always on your phone, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, wow, I'm doing so much better. I get you.
Exactly, but we all are, right? We're all on our phones. So, and I know all my cases back and forth, so I'm able to respond very quickly. I'm able to respond, pretty simply whenever they're asking. Listen, I do get, Friday night at 11 o'clock. Sometimes I'll get a text message, and sometimes I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna answer you back, but not it's in my head. I'm like, not the best time, but I still answer back pretty frequently.
And you feel like clients are receptive to that because they feel like they can reach out and talk to you whenever they need you, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's important. I think a lot of clients, all clients, obviously they take their cases very seriously. They were seriously injured in a really bad accident, and their life changed in an instant. So they want that person to be there for them, particularly their lawyer, because they're hiring me to represent them, or they're hiring Shulman and Hill, the firm, to represent them,
Right.
So
Right.
I think we're there for them, like in their biggest time of need. And that's what they're looking for. They're not only looking for that, that representation, they're also looking for that person that's going to help them through it.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, love this firm, Shulman and Hill, and they also love me particularly for doing that,
Like, well, call me. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I love it. Well, and that brings up another interesting point too, because I've had a lot of clients too that will have come over from maybe huge firms, right? And they're like, I never called my lawyer because every time I picked up the phone, sent an email, I'd get a bill. Like every time. Didn't matter if I was just like, hey, was that thing filed today? It's like bill, And so it brings up an interesting like bureaucratic overview of like the way law firms are handled. So, I mean, are you like billing your clients every time they text you, or is it more like, okay, if I'm doing legal work, then yes, for sure. Or are you like in a firm that's like demanding you always bill?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good question. So we actually work off contingency.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, so personal injury is off contingency.
Mhm.
Per the retainer agreement that's signed, the attorney's entitled to a certain percentage at the
Right.
end of the case.
Mhm.
So it's a free for all.
Right, right. Yeah. See,
Right?
I do billable hours, and sometimes some of my clients are like
Yeah,
friends too. And I'm like, when are we crossing the line between
yeah,
this being a billable?
yeah. No, that's really interesting,
Hey, how
especially
are you?
yeah, especially if you are a billable firm. And
Yeah.
like, what do you do about those text messages? What do you do about like the emails and stuff like that? Because it takes
Yeah.
time to respond. You know what I mean?
True.
How have you? I'm gonna turn the tables on you. How have you handled it?
And not well. I'm usually like, well, we did talk about shopping, so I'm not going to bill. I'm
Right.
not gonna bill that. They
No.
did ask me how my weekend was.
How was your weekend and what was going on with my case, right?
Yeah, exactly. And my firm's going to be like, bitch, why aren't you billing? Underbill versus
Exactly.
overbill.
Yeah, no, 100%, absolutely. That's
Very
so
cool.
funny. Yeah,
So
that
now,
must be an interesting tightrope that you guys have to deal with.
every now and then, it
Yeah,
works out. So I'd love
yeah,
to ask you
100%.
too, like when you have clients return, do they also give like word of mouth too? Like where do you generate most of your business? Is it online? Is it word of mouth, return? How does that go?
Yeah, so I mean, for the firm itself, it depends. We have like a lot of avenues of business. A lot of the lawyers here, we're pretty well known, and they all get their own clients as well. We all bring them into the firm.
Hmm.
The firm obviously does like its own advertising, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Personally, I do get a lot of my clients by word of mouth.
Okay.
I believe it or not, I do get a lot of my clients from Instagram. I know a lot of people. It's like, yeah, it's so funny. It's like still a pretty uncharted territory, especially for personal injury.
Right.
You don't see a lot of personal injury lawyers really like taking to Instagram too much. There are certain people that they have been doing it, and there's certain people that it definitely works for.
Hmm.
I believe so you've had somebody on the show before that was like really famous on Instagram, through social media.
Hmm.
And it's really this is the trick that I always say. I should never reveal my tricks, right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's not a
I
trick.
have an IP attorney. We'll protect it. Go.
So I feel like the trick is just staying relevant. You know what I mean? Staying in people's minds. When something happens, God forbid, your mother, father, cousin, aunt, friend, relative, anybody, God forbid anybody gets into that accident, whether it's a car accident, they slipped and fall, they tripped and fell, excuse me,
Mhm.
all that. You just want to be relevant in their mind when that situation occurs, that then they're going to reach out to you.
Right.
That's really how I've like narrowed it down. I don't have billboards yet, right? I don't have
Work in progress. Come on.
yeah,
I
one
get
day,
on that.
maybe one day, yeah. Or maybe if I lose a few, I'll go on a billboard.
Yeah.
But
Well, you better Instagram it when it's up.
no, 100%. I absolutely will, definitely. But yeah, so I think it's a lot of Instagram, a lot of word of mouth, and it's just being relevant in people's minds and also doing a good job, right? Like, if you obviously, I have really honest conversations with all of my clients about like, their expectations, like, what their treatment is, the value of their case in the eyes of, the law, say, or in the eyes of the insurance companies. And I
Mhm.
like to keep them informed along the way, when you
Right.
go to that doctor's appointment, let me know how it went. That's what I always tell them.
Right.
When you go get that, if you go get that injection or you go get that surgery,
Mhm.
call me when you're feeling better because I want to know how you're feeling. I want to know what happened. I want to know like how it went, what the doctors say, And this is also really important. And I always say this too, is like the medical treatment is between the doctor and the client.
Right.
And that's definitely a big boundary that I always keep with all of my clients.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't read your MRI, a radiologist has to, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
I'm not gonna know, what what the medical cure is for the type of injury you sustain. That's between you and the doctor, and you guys are keeping me informed as to that.
Right.
So I think that's also a really big distinction that I always let the clients know for sure.
Right. I think that's a really good point too, because a lot of clients, I think in just general litigation anyway, they feel like the lawyer, at least in my experience, I feel like the lawyer cares only about the things which affect the case and not the individual as a person. So it's been like, hey, are you doing okay? Like through that. And I think about that too. I'm like, God, I should check on my client. Like, how are you doing in your mental state, going probably through the most stressful time of your life? And sometimes I forget, like, don't just ask legal, like, are they okay? Because this is some heavy stuff sometimes.
Exactly, and the thing is, like, when what we do in injury, it's very much, it involves somebody's entire life. So, we have to find out about how are you paying your rent? If you're unable to return to work, is this payment that you're getting from workers' compensation, is this going to cover your rent? If you're going to cover your bills, and we have to see what we have to do in order to make sure all that's covered, right?
Absolutely.
So it's also part of the practice, in personal injury, where we have to care. Okay, do you have a spouse? Does your spouse work? Is your spouse able to, help out with certain things? We want to make sure that you're going to be okay. So those are all things that we take into account. So 100%, like we like to, we always have the conversation, what's going on. Some people can't stop working. Some people can't, some people are physically unable to go back to work. So everybody's situation is so individual. Everybody's situation is so different. And that's, a big part in personal injury, is like knowing who you're dealing with, knowing your client, knowing, their backgrounds, where they're coming from, all that information.
So it's really like client oriented, like you're like all about the client, their situation. And like, also, I mean, those also go to damages too, right? Like things they're not able to do that they once were.
100%. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's like, the question that's asked at the end of every deposition, essentially. Right. So good job. You could do it.
Woo! Yeah. All right.
Exactly,
like at least you get like the cool stories. I'm like, do you want to hear someone that ripped off a trademark? Everyone at the table's like, no. I'm like, all right, well, me either. But I have another.
Everybody needs representation. Everybody needs that. That's what I always tell everybody. Everybody needs representation no matter what. So
it's true. And I mainly represent companies, so it's kind of hard to be like, hey, company, how you doing? Like,
no, exactly.
Okay.
100%. Exactly. Yeah. But there's individuals behind the companies that you could learn about.
True.
I'm sure you could do that.
Yeah.
What also is interesting, that like I find that a lot of even though lawyers, they're always in the news, there's all these legal shows, right? There's all these legal documentaries. There's still so many people. And I think, kudos to you for doing this, because I feel like you're kind of breaking that barrier as well. There's still so many people that like, they don't know the process. Like they don't know, like they come into a lawyer's office and like, all they know is that they walked into a lawyer's office, and then the rest is in your hands.
Right.
Like they don't know, the legal documents. They don't know what a summons and complaint is. They don't even know, what jurisdiction is. They don't, not that they should, right? But I think a big thing is there's like that boundary between like what the lawyer actually does for the individual,
right,
versus like what people think or what people see on television and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So I see so much that like, people come into the office, and all of my clients, they have no clue how the process works. They have no idea, you know what I mean? They've never been through it before. They have no clue as to, anything regarding, well, how does this work? Like, is where does the insurance come from? Where does, is it my insurance? Is it their insurance? There's so many questions, and it's like literally being a teacher every single day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you deal with the same thing, especially you say it with copyrights and infringement and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
that's a whole area I don't even know. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Well, and it is, client expectations are interesting. And I wonder if you go through this too, like repeat clients who've been through litigation, I don't have to handhold as much, but clients who've never been through it, you know, they're like thinking it's going to be a few good men, Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. You know, I'm like, it is not that dramatic. You don't want to be pounding your fist at the court. Like, they're like, why didn't the judge come down on him? I'm like, the judge did come down on him. They're like, but they didn't yell. And I'm like, didn't you hear the judge? And they're like, no. I'm like, no, come on, guys. Like, come on. Like, it is not
exactly, yeah. If it's not Judge Judy, like, you know, lifting up, then they don't think, you know, anything happened, right?
Right. They're like, what just happened? I'm like, it's good. They're like, it didn't look good. I'm like, no, it's good. It's good.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah. So that's so funny. Yeah, I mean, we always experience that, you know, like even for instance on say like a rear end, you know, a rear end summary judgment motion or something like that. I informed the client, listen, you were rear-ended. I'm filing for this motion. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, okay, well, I was rear-ended and I could win. I'm going to win, you know, and I'm like, it depends on the judge. Like,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know, 100%. So it really, you know, it depends. But, you know, what you're doing is great because you're breaking that boundary a little bit. You know what I mean? Like you're breaking down that wall of, you know, relatability, and you're breaking down that wall of, you know, just attorneys having a conversation about, you know, what they do, having an open and honest conversation about like, you know, what we do. And, you know, we're people too, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, we all go through everything. We all go through the motions of life. And then this is what we do for work.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what your Instagram is so awesome too. Like you like hit lifestyle, fashion, law. You've got so many different areas on there, but like they all encompass you and your personality and so what you're about, you know? So I think it's definitely a testament to like how to do it right, in my opinion, you know, and where clients would want to come back to. So like, I like this guy. He's cool. He's funny. He handles my stuff. He answers my calls when I want and gets results, right? That's what we're here to do.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah. Importantly, there's the fashion, but then there's also the results, right?
Right. I mean, okay, but fashion is like maybe second. Okay. You know, first is the result, second.
Second, right? Awesome. No, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Absolutely. You know, and I'm trying to, you know, I don't get the most clients, you know, than anybody in New York, you know what I mean? But, you know, I think that as an individual, you know, I like to be the person that I am inside the courtroom as I am outside the courtroom, you know, and it's like, I just like to be my true self no matter what. And, you know, I think people do appreciate me for it. So, you know, while I'm not, you know, that, you know, I'm not sitting behind like a stack of books, right? Like you know, obviously I research, I read everything. Like, obviously I'm a great attorney, excuse me. But like, you know, I'm still trying to say like, you know, we're people too, we're cool. You know, we could have our fun and we could, you know, kick ASS, could, you know, still go and, you know, we still go and we have drinks with our friends and we still go and, you know, live life as well. Right. I think that that's important to, and that's just how I convey myself, you know. I'm a person, I'm an individual, this is who I am. Hire me as your lawyer because not only am I going to get you great results, because you're going to like me for the person that I am. Yeah, you're authentic. It's not a bait and switch. You're authentic. Like you're always 100%. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So, and you know what? Thank God it's been working out well. So yeah, you know, hopefully it sticks. Well, I think it's working great. And I think you've got a good formula. Thank you. I appreciate it. But same for you. I mean, if that's what it feels like you've been, you know, you're going with as well, you know, you're like fashionista for sure, which is amazing. I mean, I love shopping, so might as well show it off. Right? Exactly. 100%. Well, Anthony, it's been great talking to you, and I'd love to let our viewers know where they can find you. If you'll throw up and tell us your social media handles, that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram's asears.com ESQ. It's A Sears like the store, S as in Sam, EARS as in Sam. .DOTCOMESQ. Also my cell phone, you could, if anybody wants to reach out to me.
We won't put that up there. We'll let them reach out to you. They'll have to do some investigation themselves.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Or you can look at the firm. It's Shulman and Hill. We're attorneys based in New York. We have an office almost in every county in New York. We also recently expanded to New Jersey. I'm licensed in New Jersey as well. So you could always research the firm and reach out to me through there as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us for, our interview today. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You're awesome.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.